Hello, it's Penny Meganson from the Meganson Method, and welcome to Penny for Your Thoughts. I'm joined here today by Rosemary Mitchell, and Rosemary is a conscious eating coach. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about conscious eating. And we're going to focus on the mindset principles around changing your habits in a permanent way, permanent lifestyle changes around health, food choices, and body weight. So if you've ever struggled with bad habits or sticking to a healthy eating regime, you won't want to miss this. So let's get started. Hello, Rosemary. Welcome. Thank you for joining. Great. So tell me, how did you get involved in the work that you're doing? I know you're a personal trainer, you focus on nutrition, you really combine the two. And tell me more about this conscious eating and your story. What was your personal journey?
So I'll start with myself and how it all happened. I grew up overweight and, was dealing with things like being teased and such. And I noticed, my self-confidence, low self-esteem brought many choices that I didn't want in life. And I, really had not thought necessarily about the connection with weight and your emotional makeup. It was just something that I accepted. I thought it was part of my personality and was pleasantly surprised to find that when I did lose the weight, I changed, my sense of ownership of myself and my future completely shifted. And I was determined to share this with other people. I wanted people to at least have the choice and to know that choice existed. And my path to changing was sort of layered. There were, I studied with a guru for a while. I, did some emotional work with a therapist. I did some fitness training. And so I realized that transformation, long-term change was really a composite of several different things. It wasn't just eating. And so with that consciousness, I decided to open up the idea of conscious eating, and it's been very effective. It's something that I offer clients. I knew that fitness was great, but I knew without that solid foundation of the attachment to other areas of your life, emotional, spiritual, etc., that it would just not stand the test of time. And that's what I wanted people to have, long-term success. I've had weight off for over 20 years. I've changed the way I think and feel about food and in my body. And I have eliminated struggle, which is what so many people have right now. Even if they have the body, there's still that struggle. And I wanted people to be able to experience a sense of peace with their food and eating. So it's worked out very well.
Yeah, that sounds great. Let's break that down then. So I agree with you. I think taking the struggle out is the key element, because so many people just follow any diet they see and they never stick to the program, or they find it so difficult, even for cravings, to stop these cravings. And so it really is down to the mindset. It's the other stuff. It's not just the food. It's actually, that's just such a small component of it. So why don't you tell me what the defining moment was for you or for your clients? What do you think is really what makes that transformation happen?
Yeah, there's a sense of readiness. When I meet with a client, the first thing I want to know is, where is their level of readiness to change? And what does the eating and the food and their connection to it mean to them? And I help them to see not just the weight loss or, the end result, the outcomes that we can point to, but I help them to see to have a vision, right? So I do what's called sort of like a health visioning session with them, where I tie their whole being to how will this change you? How will it change your and your circle of friends and family? And then how do you think this will somehow impact the environment? So I try to tie them to bigger things and help them to develop a vision and a purpose for what they're doing. So then it's not just about, I want to lose 10 pounds for the wedding, or I want to look great for my partner. It becomes, tied to who they are and a sense of purpose. And it's deeper, and they'll fight for it
Mm-hmm.
harder when it's that much more meaningful to them. Yeah.
Well, I think that's great because it really is the sense of purpose and finding your passion, finding what you're good at and what has meaning for you. That's really what makes us happy, I think. And if you
Absolutely.
can get them focusing on that, then the weight loss just happens because they're in a happier place and they're more
I agree.
focused on where they want to be and the person that they want to become, or that the life that they want to be living. I think that's great. So
Absolutely.
what are the mindset principles or strategies that our listeners could start using now? Do you have any tips,
I
even
do.
questions that they could be asking themselves?
I do. And I'm thinking of clients that I've worked with, and some of the ways that I've been able to help them set themselves up for success. So the first thing that I would say is simple practices. Insert little things like say grace before eating, right? And not standing
Mm-hmm.
while you're eating, right? And maybe even taking time out to write a little bit. Those three elements of saying grace just opens you up to this whole thing of blessing your food and feeling as if your food, it's a reciprocal thing that your food is blessing you. And so it
Mm-hmm.
inserts just a tiny bit of what I call reverence for the food. And so it changes the way that you experience it. I often hear clients say that they eat slower, more slowly, with more appreciation. They're really taking the sensory experience of foods, how it feels in their mouth, how it looks. One of the things I love to do with them is to make a pretty plate, right? Make your plate pretty, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take time to decorate and whatever, and, become artistic and creative. So, I tell them the palate will become excited when it sees what you've presented it with, and so that's a whole different approach. Clients have taken pictures of, elaborate things with eyes and seeds and all sorts of things, but it's fun, and it gets built, it forges a different bond with food.
Mm-hmm. No, I love
Yeah,
that. I've got kids, and so that was always from a young age my way of getting them to explore fruits and vegetables and to make it fun and colorful, like lots of color on your plates. And I find
absolutely.
I still do that with clients. Try and make everything
Yeah,
as colorful as you can, and so it really gets you thinking vegetables are interesting as opposed to like, um,
yeah,
also trying new things, trying new fruits and vegetables and things that you've never had, trying quinoa and things like that. But I get what you're saying about saying grace. It really gives you that gratitude. And I think gratitude
yeah,
is so important as like a baseline of just being appreciative of what you've got. Because so much of I think what we're focused on is, I wish I was more this or that. And we're always striving towards something. And so just taking that moment and having that gratitude for the simple things and the things
yeah.
that we actually have, I think is such an important step. And then
And
having
that
that
whole
vision,
thing of
like you were talking about.
yeah, and just your physicality, your physiology when you're eating, sitting up and not standing. When we're standing and eating, popping a few things in our mouth, it becomes unconscious,
Right.
right? We're on fast forward, the brain's not connecting to what you're doing. And so really just setting up simple rules for yourself. I always eat sitting down. I always say grace. I never eat such and such past such an hour or so. Um,
Mhm.
That's your training ground, right? And so I tell my clients, when they start working with me in phase one, it's all about normalizing the eating, right? Just getting a nice, easy,
Mhm.
gentle flow, a nice relationship, having a system, feeling very comforted that it's the water in the morning, maybe some fruit just to cleanse your system, and moving on to something simple, a protein shake, whatever it is, a nice meal. And then they get into that rhythm and
Yeah.
flow, and the confidence starts to build, and they start to feel the results of what they're doing. And they feel like they're an active participant in this, like, wow, look at me. I did that. And so there are a
Yeah.
lot of wins that really boost the self-esteem and the sense of I can do it. you know I work with a lot of 100-pound losers, and starting out at the beginning of the race, that it's a journey. And so for many, the tools of things like resilience and being able to have that far-sighted perspective is hard when you're not going to get the immediate rewards. And so if we are only focused on the number on the scale or that needle moving, then it becomes arduous and you're going to give up. But if you're
Yeah.
thinking, if you have chapter after chapter, the pretty plate, the normalizing the eating, just movement for the sake of movement, as a precursor to exercise, thinking just the experience of your body as a moving organism, and walking, stairs, everything becomes wow. I'm adding up, I'm racking up, I'm making deposits, and I'm getting the investment. And it um,
Yeah.
it really does become a thing. It's more of a mental activity at that point, but even so, it translates into actionable steps, which cumulatively bring about results. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Do you have an example of one of these clients that you've worked with, one of your maybe 100-pound losers?
Yes.
Do you have something that would give some inspiration to those of us that are trying really hard right now?
Yeah. Well, I had a client who had started out with several different experiences before, what they would have called failed experiences. They, knew what to do. They had done it before and had actually lost several pounds before, 50, 60, and always regained it. So they weren't coming with a lot of
Mhm.
confidence and a lot of skepticism and a lot of you show me, because this is something that I have a handle on, but it hasn't worked. And so
Mhm.
going through enrolling them into that belief that this had nothing to do with food, but had everything to do with the way their life was set up, the hours of sleep, the mental, the negativity, not feeding their mind with the community. And so working with them on those multiple levels, and I didn't touch the weight at all. That wasn't, I never, I didn't make that the center of our work. It was everything else. And what they noticed themselves was, oh my God, the weight is coming off and that this is happening and I'm feeling brighter and more positive. And it
Mhm.
was the biggest turnaround. Her personality turned around 360. Her family, her friends, her relationships there blossomed. Her confidence grew. And she went on, with this way of taking the focus off of what she thought was the problem and putting it
Mhm.
squarely on herself and taking better care, self-care, the practice of self-care, the nurturing, the dates with herself, the time to write in the journal, and went on to lose about 85 pounds, which completely changed her life. And so, I see, that this is, this whole thing of self-care is really intimately connected to the way we eat and the way, our attitude towards food and feelings, how we handle emotions. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I think it's not really the emotional attachment to the food, it's the emotional attachment we have to ourselves, maybe. And maybe that's what you are really doing, is making them really get into that self-love, or, just realizing that they're important, and the self-care on a daily basis. They deserve it. And
Yeah,
and when you're not focused on that number on the scale, and it's really just about taking care of yourself and feeling good, you just notice that the weight has gone and you weren't even thinking about it. I've always found that when I'm not focused on those little, and for my clients as well, when you're not focused on losing the weight, I get clients often when they're getting ready for a wedding, for example. The
yes,
moment you stop thinking about the dress size, you're just, let's do some exercise that you love. Let's do something fun. Let's start dancing, or, other activities. And they're doing it because they love it, not because they just want to get down another dress size. It's like the
exactly.
dress size just goes down. Whoa, what a treat. And I think
Yeah,
that is really the key to success, just getting them to just love life and enjoy taking care of themselves, and realizing that they do deserve this, and having that gratitude, and just changing their emotional connection with how they think about themselves. And yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
what
Yeah.
would you say was maybe the defining moment for you when you were going through your personal journey of weight loss? When did you really feel like, this is it? This is what's going to change things for me?
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I had hit a bottom with my food and weight relationship. And I had started to veer into what I would call destructive, self destructive eating patterns. And so
Mhm.
and I've actually written about it in a book, Coming Out of the Cave. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
But that was a chronicle of the darkness that that world creates around you, because it does affect your mood. It affects, it goes into very depressive mental states, and also, the self-confidence, everything. So here I was, poised at the brink of just sort of jumping off of a cliff, almost literally, and saying, this is hopeless. I'm going down, spiraling. And at that point, I knew that if I did not take focused, conscious action then to save myself, the end result would not be great. And so I reached out. I, did a couple things. There was Overeaters Anonymous that played a huge role at some point. I
Mhm.
started enrolling myself into a church. I did, different activities. Like I said, I studied with a guru. Um, I was reaching out, not quite knowing which would hit, but just reaching out. And so with all of that reaching out, there was a connection point where I literally had changed the mental tapes in my head. And so with that new dialogue with self, because the thing that really holds us prisoner to compulsive eating or just general disordered eating or overeating is it starts here between the ears. And so once the messages started to change, once my thoughts were more self-affirming, this was no longer my little secret, but I had opened up to receive help and to share my experiences, things started to change dramatically. And I started to weave in fitness and movement, which is a great mood changer. With the endorphins and everything that it does, it just makes you feel great. And so I sort of stumbled on that with a friend, and, it had the dance element, which I have a dance background. So that perked me up. I love the movement sense. And so
Mhm.
I would say, that the turning point really came when I made the connection, when I connected the dots and understood that it really was a mind, body, spirit shift. I'd started meditation, I'd started my gratitude practice, in came the dancing and the movement. And of course, things just shifted, the mental, the tapes and the dialogue shifted. And so for people really struggling with consistency, I would say accountability is so important. You know what to do. You've
Absolutely.
read all the books. You are intelligent.
Mhm.
This is clear as a bell. The doctors mentioned it. You've got it. So what's missing? You need someone to hold you accountable. But why do I need someone? We often say, I should be able to do it. And I wasted about 2 years saying that. And it's, if we
Yeah.
understand and put it in context and realize that the most successful people on the planet work with coaches, they work with accountability
Absolutely.
partners. This is nothing that
Yeah.
spells, oh, I'm incompetent. No, no. We need that focus.
Mm.
There's so many competing priorities that it's hard sometimes to stay focused and aligned with what will be so impactful. There's nothing like health and wellness. We all know that without it, there's
Mhm.
nothing. Yet it's so hard to stay on a path. And so that's what I would say
Yeah.
to most people: stay on a path. There is no right path. There isn't something over there or here. Any path,
Mhm.
if you commit to it, will give you exactly what you want. And then find a coach, find a partner who will hold you to your commitments and affirm you and guide you and such. And that, for me, has been the missing piece that I hammer into clients, especially when they're just on the brink of success or they've achieved some success and it's like, bye, I have what I need. I think I can do it on my own. I say, no, wait, this is the
Mhm.
point. This is the
Not there
point.
yet. Mhm.
It's all going to fall apart.
Yeah.
Stay the course. Don't go.
Yeah.
And fortunately, I've been able to hold on to some clients and speak, some life into them with that, because our tendency as human beings is, I've got it. This is easy. And it isn't, it
Yeah.
isn't. So
And even more so, I think if you start to see the changes happening, you go, okay, I've got this, I've done this, or maybe I'm done. And it really is that you stay on that path and keep going. Because what happens is you get that self-sabotage, don't you? So many people, like, they're just starting to lose the weight, they're starting to feel great and look great, and they're really happy. And then you find that the mind plays tricks on you. It's like the body wants to stay the same. So as you start to lose the weight, the body finds ways of having these additional cravings, and the bad habits start, it's like that little guy sitting on your shoulder telling you to do all the wrong things. So
exactly.
that's where I think that accountability is so important, to keep on that path. So you're absolutely
Absolutely.
right. I think
Absolutely.
all of us need an accountability partner when you're really trying to change your goals and step out of your comfort zone and to move forward, because it's so easy to go back to that comfort zone, and it's much harder to keep moving forward. And so you
Yeah.
do need someone to help you. So whether it's that you do it with a friend and you both really keep each other motivated, I think you're
Yeah.
absolutely right that all people that have, reach some sort of success. They've all had mentors and coaches. I think we all need teaching to reach a new level. So whenever you're trying to aim further than where you are right now, the best thing to do is to find someone who has that knowledge that can help you
Yes.
and
Yeah.
hold you accountable. So you're absolutely
Absolutely.
right. Um,
Absolutely.
Absolutely right. And I love your take on the mindfulness side of it, that it really is about just feeling good, appreciating good food, and just enjoying movement for the sake of movement.
Yes.
So I'm in Switzerland at the moment, and in Europe, I would say, well, it depends on what city you're in the States, but everyone seems to walk everywhere here, and sort of walking and taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Gosh, I don't even
Yeah.
know my words anymore. So, those sorts of things, I think just those little details make such a difference. And we can get so obsessed with our little Fitbit and how many calories have I burned today? How many steps have I taken? And it's not really about that. And it's just living a good life. Do you feel good? Like,
Yeah.
exercise for the sake of feeling good. And when
Yeah.
you're doing that, then it's effortless, because you're not doing it because you're trying to count how many calories you've burned. You're doing it because you just feel good. And then you do feel good, and then you don't want to not do it because it feels good, and
Yeah.
just being active because it's great. Yeah, and finding activities that you enjoy, like you were mentioning the dance. I think that is such an important element of it. If you hate being in the gym, find other activities that you enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
running, find something else. But again, I think having a
So
coach
important.
or a trainer
Yeah,
really helps you. Helps you in the beginning stages as well to make that habit, the
definitely.
lifestyle change, so that you've got the habit. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's all about accountability as well, for sure.
Accountability and the recognition that even if you might not innately have the skill of being able to self-regulate with food or eating, just know that you can learn it. I had to make
Hmm.
that acceptance that this was an area of difficulty for me. And I accepted that. And once I accepted that, there wasn't all this protest and postulating about what I should have known because I studied it. It didn't matter. It was like, this is an area of weakness for me, but I can strengthen
Sure.
it. And once I strengthened
Hmm.
it, I had the same muscles that people who did it innately did. And so what
Hmm.
does it matter what route we come to success, through? The point is to arrive at a place of acceptance of self, acceptance of your limitations, acceptance of what may be a little hard for you, but not so hard for other people. It's that acceptance that this is my makeup, this is my propensity, this is what I move towards, this is where it's hard for me, these are my limits, can't bring such and such in the home, it's not really great for me to have
Hmm.
almond butter at midnight, doesn't work, you just know what your limits are and you
Absolutely.
accept them. You accept them without judgment. We judge ourselves so heavily. You
Mhm.
should.
Yes,
Why not?
absolutely.
Why can't you? What's wrong? And if we just simply say, hey, you know what? I struggle with almond butter. Sometimes I notice that it's only at a certain time, and that's it. That's not a safe zone for me. That's a low control point in my day. It's not good for me. Is it helpful? No, it isn't. Okay, great. So we won't do that. We'll go to bed instead, or we'll have some tea. And once that dialogue is constantly going on, and you've assumed the role of your protector, you've assumed that role that you are going to be not the disciplinarian, but your protector, then it's a different relationship.
Yeah. You don't beat yourself up. I think that is such an important part of it. So
Absolutely.
I think
We're constantly in
when you
judgment of ourselves.
it just knocks you back. Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
That you're just on a journey and there's no negative or positive. You're just on a journey and you're going to do the best you can, and that acceptance and all of that. I absolutely agree
And
with
you're
you.
going to install a
Well,
coach.
so thank you so
You're going to
much.
install habits. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That is wonderful. So thank you so much, Rosemary,
You're
for your
welcome.
time. And I hope all of our listeners have enjoyed some of these tips on conscious eating. And again, if you want to get in touch with Rosemary, if you've got any questions or specific concerns, reach out to me at penny@megansonmethod.com. And Rosemary, how can they get in touch with you?
They can
Do you
always reach
have
out to my
specific?
website. Yeah, conscious transformationcoaching.com.
Okay,
Conscioustransformationcoaching.com,
great.
all one word, and just reach out. My contact information is there, and I'll be happy to talk with you for sure.
Great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you, listeners.
Absolutely.
Until next time.